The electromagnetic storm descended upon Colony 7 like the wrath of an ancient god. David pressed his weathered hands against the viewport of his homestead, watching purple lightning tear across the crimson Martian sky. The retrofitted habitat groaned under the assault, and somewhere in the distance, he heard the desperate howling of his dogs, Max, Ruby. David's heart seized. He'd let them out just before the storm, warning a mistake that might cost him the only family he had left. The veteran's prosthetic leg whirred as he stumbled toward the airlock, but the habitat's AI locked it down automatically. Storm intensity exceeds safe parameters, the calm voice announced. External excursion prohibited. David slammed his fist against the reinforced door. After surviving the Battle of Proxima Station, after losing half his squad and most of his faith in miracles, he'd found peace in this remote corner of human expansion with to rescue dogs who'd saved him as much as he'd saved them. He wouldn't lose them to a freak weather anomaly. Then he saw her, through the static-filled viewport. A figure moved through the storm with impossible grace. She was tall, easily 7 feet, with scales that shimmered between deep emerald and burnished gold. Wings elegant and membranous like ancient Earth legends, folded tight against her serpentine body as she navigated the electromagnetic chaos. In her powerful arms, she carried the terrified dogs. David's breath caught. The draconian species were rare this far from their homeworld of Ignis Prime. Most humans had never seen one in person, only heard stories of their fierce pride and isolationist culture. Yet here one was, in the middle of a killer storm. Carrying his dogs, she moved with purpose toward his habitat, her inner eyelids flickering rapidly, a biological adaptation against the electrical discharge that would have fried any human nervous system. David watched in awe as she reached his emergency airlock, the one used for equipment delivery. He rushed to the control panel, overriding the safety protocols with his military access codes. The outer door opened just long enough for her to slip inside with Max and Ruby, before slamming shut again. The decontamination cycle seemed to take forever when the inner door finally opened. Steam billowed out. She stood there, water streaming from her scales, both dogs trembling in her arms but alive. Her eyes' vertical pupils set in pools of molten amber met his with an intensity that made David's combat instincts flare. "Your creatures," she said, her voice a melodic rumble that he felt in his chest. "They required assistance." David took Max and Ruby from her, the dogs immediately burrowing into his arms. "You saved them. In that storm. How did you even survive out there?" She tilted her head. A gesture he'd later learn indicated amusement among her kind. "I am Lisa, of the Ignis Prime Third Brood. That storm is merely inconvenient for my species. The electromagnetic pulses stimulate our scales pleasantly." David shook his head in disbelief. "That storm would kill a human in 30 seconds. "Yes," Lisa agreed, her wings unfurling slightly to shake off excess moisture. "I observed this probability when your creatures fled from your dwelling. The small one with brown spots became tangled in your perimeter netting, Ruby." Of course it was Ruby. She was always getting into trouble. David set the dogs down gently, watching them shake themselves off. "I'm David. I don't know how to thank you. Those dogs, they're important," Lisa finished. "I understand the concept of pack bonds. My own clutch mates." She paused, something pain flickering across her alien features. "They were lost in the Andromeda conflicts." The Andromeda conflicts. David knew those battles well. Different front, same war. The one that had turned the galaxy into a powder keg before humanity, the Draconians, and a dozen other species finally brokered peace. "I'm sorry," David said quietly. "I lost my squad at Proxima Station." Lisa's tail swayed slowly, another gesture he didn't understand yet, but would come to recognize as acknowledgement of shared pain. "Then you comprehend why I could not leave your pack members to perish." The storm raged outside for 3 more hours. David made tea, actual earth tea, one of his few luxuries, and offered Lisa a heated blanket, which she declined politely. Instead, she settled near his heating unit, her cold-blooded physiology requiring warmth after the storm's chill. They talked about war, about loss, about the strange paths that had led them both to this remote colony on the edge of human space. Lisa had come to Colony 7 as an environmental consultant, her species' natural Resistance to electromagnetic phenomena made them invaluable. For studying Mars is increasingly unstable. Magnetosphere, your people call my kind dragon women, Lisa said at one point, her eyes reflecting the warm light of David's habitat. A reference to your ancient mythology. The legends never did dragons justice, David replied, watching her tend to Ruby's paw where the netting had scraped it. Her claws, which could rend steel, worked with surprising gentleness. When the storm finally broke, the Martian landscape glittered with ionized frost. Lisa stood to leave, her wings stretching in the suddenly clear air visible through the viewport. Will I see you again? David asked, surprising himself with how much he hoped she'd say yes. Lisa's vertical pupils dilated slightly. Colony 7 is small, and your dogs require someone to check on them while you work at the terraforming station. She paused at the airlock. Besides, I find I enjoy your earth tea. David smiled his first genuine smile in months. Then I'll stock up, as she disappeared into the Martian morning. Her golden green scales catching the distant sunlight, David realized something profound. He'd spent years thinking miracles were dead, buried with his squad at Proxima Station. But perhaps miracles simply wore different forms than expected. Perhaps sometimes they had scales, wings, and the courage to walk through storms to save frightened dogs for a veteran who'd forgotten how to hope. Max and Ruby sat beside him at the viewport, watching their unexpected savior take flight, her wings carrying her gracefully toward the colony's research center. Yeah, David murmured to his dogs, already planning when he might visit the research center himself. I think she's pretty miraculous too, in the vast expanse of space, where humanity had reached out and found itself among countless other species. Sometimes the greatest discovery wasn't a new world or technology. Sometimes it was simply finding someone who understood someone who would brave any storm, for those who couldn't save themselves, and sometimes that someone had wings and